Hello and welcome. I am Gimba Umar. Tonight, State Security Service releases detained federal judges arrested over the weekend over corruption allegations. National Judicial Council criticizes arrest and detention of federal judges by State Security Service, summons emergency meeting to discuss issue. President Muhammad Buhari challenges National Economic Summit participants to come up with ideas that will address Nigeria's import dependency. The United Nations Secretary General seeks assistance for Haiti in the wake of Hurricane Matthew's devastation, says a massive response is needed.
And on business news tonight, industry expert tasks federal government on harmonizing policies to boost investors' confidence in private sector.
And on sports news tonight, Niger Tornadoes management sacks 11 first-team players after a review of the just concluded 2015-2016 NPFL season.
And from Abuja, I'm Gloria Umezuke. The federal government releases helicopters from presidential fleet to Nigerian Air Force, pledges to boost armed forces capacity to deal with insurgency.
We'll begin tonight with the latest on the Department of State Security Service clamped down on some judges. All of the 7 judges arrested by the State Security Service for alleged corruption and misconduct have been released on administrative bail. Security sources told Channels Television in Abuja that they were released on self-recognition by the Security Service yesterday, and they reported at the State Security Service headquarters today in compliance with the conditions for their bail. The source added that, contrary to reports, the decision to arrest the judges was taken due to lack of cooperation by the National Judicial Council. According to the source, investigation to the activities of judges actually started in April this year, but the National Judicial Council refused to allow the suspects to be questioned by the State Security Service. Operatives of the DSS on Friday night launched an operation in Gombe, Abuja and Port Harcourt to arrest the judges, although the operation in Port Harcourt was unsuccessful due to the intervention of the River State Governor. A spokesman for the DSS, Abdullahi Garba, explained shortly after the raid on Saturday that the service embarked on raids based on allegations of corruption and other acts of professional misconduct. In the meantime, the National Judicial Council has summoned an emergency meeting for tomorrow to discuss the arrest and detention of some federal judges by the State Security Services. Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Mahmoud Mohammed, who announced the meeting, asked Nigerians to be calm and described the arrest of judges as saddening, distressing and deeply regrettable. The Chief Justice gave the assurance at a valedictory session for Justice Suleiman Galadima, who is retiring from the Supreme Court. Our correspondent Amaka Okafo reports.
Governors of Kogi and Nasarawa State, former justices of the Supreme Court and 7 jurists, senior lawyers, family and friends at a valedictory session for retiring Justice Suleiman Galadima. Shortly after, the justices of the Supreme Court, led by Justice Mahmoud Mohammed, filed into the courtroom. Conspicuously absent were Justice Sylvester Nguta and Justice Iyang Okoro, who have been detained by the State Security Service. Also absent is the Attorney General of the Federation, who usually attends valedictory sessions for Supreme Court justices.
Justice of the Supreme Court of Nigeria.
To set the ball rolling, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, who extolled the values of Justice Suleiman Galadima, used the opportunity to express his position on the arrest of his colleagues and some judges of the Federal High Court.
It is indeed very saddening and deeply regrettable that the distressing and unfortunate incident which occurred on Friday, 7th October and Saturday, 8th October 2016 regarding the affairs of the judiciary. However, I must ask all Nigerians to remain calm and prayerful as emergency meeting of the National Judicial Council will be taking place tomorrow will comprehensively look into the matter.
In the absence of the Attorney General of the Federation, who is usually the second to speak at this kind of event, the President of the Nigerian Bar Association had the floor. And again, he condemned the arrest of the judges and the endorsement given by the presidency to carry out the arrests.
We are not shielding any judges from investigation from charges of corruption. The resolve of the NBA on the fight against corruption is unwavering. I find it absurd that the presidency will accept assurances for the DSS that we followed all due process of the law. We maintain our position that these operations are illegal and unconstitutional.
Nigerians will have to wait for the decision of the National Judicial Council to get its official reaction to the arrests and detention of judges. Amaka Okafo, Channels Television News.
In the meantime, the Special Assistant to the President on Prosecution at the Federal Ministry of Justice, Mr. Okoye Ogbonobla, has been defending the action of the Department of State Security and the recent raid on some judges. Speaking on our breakfast show, Sunrise Daily, earlier today, Mr. Ogbonobla says that the Constitution allows the DSS to carry out such assignments.
Look at section 2(3)(a) of the National Security Justice Act. Read it. The DSS is responsible for the prevention and detection of any crime against the internal security of Nigeria. Any crime. It includes corruption, money laundering, penal code, criminal code, perversion of justice. That's what they are accusing them of. So any crime is so broad. Any crime against the internal security of Nigeria, if a judge corrects bribe to pervert the course of justice, it is a threat to national interest and security of Nigeria. So why do we have that is why in Nigeria today there is a propensity for impunity and lawlessness. People taking laws into their hands because if you go to court, you will not judge, you will not have justice except you possess justice. So you are not right to say that the DSS cannot investigate corruption. We have many cases in court investigated by DSS on corruption. One former National Security Advisor is standing trial. I am involved in that matter. And that matter was investigated by EFCC. It borders on corruption. EFCC, not the DSS. DSS. So DSS has the power to investigate corruption, to prevent and detect any crime against the internal security of Nigeria. And that is what FBI does.
A rather heated debate on the actions of the DSS. In the meantime, the President has challenged Nigerians to develop a positive attitude towards Nigeria made in Nigeria products as a way of ending Nigeria's import dependency. While declaring the 22nd Nigeria Economic Summit opened in Abuja, the President asked participants to come up with suggestions that will aid the revitalization of local industries. He lauded the theme of this year's summit, Made in Nigeria, saying that it is in line with his administration's agenda.
The chairman of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group.
Captains of industry, bureaucrats, entrepreneurs and other notable Nigerians gathered in Abuja to discuss the nation's economy. First, the chairman of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group sets the tone for the event, stressing that it has become necessary for government to take radical steps to turn the economy around.
This is an opportunity for us to swallow some bitter pills and tell ourselves some hard truths. Unfortunately for us, our options are now limited.
This is immediately followed by a passionate appeal for the engagement of the private sector in reviving the economy, especially with the latest call for the consumption of made-in-Nigeria products. But this, according to experts, must be backed by action. This point got the attention of participants.
I note the Honorable Minister's comments about the private sector being the engine of growth and development, and I also note with gratitude his comments about the government being willing to encourage and support the private sector. I'm afraid presently, that is not how it looks. Presently, the way it looks is this. You have uncertain policy attitudes towards private capital and markets. That cannot for much longer be allowed to continue.
And from the presidency comes a message of hope for local manufacturers. President Muhammadu Buhari hopes that some of the group's decisions for reviving local industries will help the nation become less import dependent.
We need to diversify the economy so that we never again have to rely on one commodity to survive as a country, so that we can produce the food we eat, make our own textiles, produce most of the things we use, and create the right environment for our young people to be able to innovate and create jobs through technology.
For the next few days, experts will be looking at how to encourage local manufacturers as well as increase local consumption of made-in-Nigeria goods. This, according to them, is expected to have a trickling effect on the economy.
Well, after the opening ceremony, there was another session where the Vice President and other ministers were taking up on key economic issues of the government. Well, during the interactive session, the Vice President made it clear that the government is focusing on recovering the remaining outstanding $400 million stashed in Swiss banks by Nigerians. He also says that the federal government is investing big in transportation. Our correspondent Temple Asaju reports.
The Vice President and 3 other ministers looked prepared for the interactive session as they dealt on issues surrounding the economic policies of government, beginning with the monies so far recovered from the anti-corruption crusade.
If you look in the 2016 budget, we have a line in that budget, 350 billion is what we expected to recover. So it's actually a line in our budget, you know. So we really have provided for it.
350 billion naira.
Yes, is what we expect, you know. That's what's in the budget, you know. Now, obviously, we have not been able to recover all that in terms of physical cash. In many cases, for example, we have about almost 400 million outstanding with the U.S. We have close to $300 million, I'm talking of dollars, outstanding with the Swiss government.
Then the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Senator Udo Udoma, gives more explanations.
We're preparing the 2017 budget, and it's easy to do what you are suggesting for funds that we are sure have already been received. For instance, I think there is some recovery that we're expecting from Switzerland, and we are looking at tying that to some specific infrastructure project.
The government maintains that it's making progress in key areas such as agriculture, manufacturing, and in creating the enabling environment for the SMEs and other investors to thrive.
So there are opportunities, several opportunities in that chain. I think that the business of government really is to just ensure that we encourage the private sector to go into this area.
The Minister of Budget and National Planning had a tough time trying to summarize the nation's debt profile, but he says he remembers vividly that 2.2 trillion naira was the deficit in the 2015 budget.
And how much does Nigeria owe right now?
Well, how much Nigeria as a country?
Owes, yes.
No, you have, what I'm talking about is that you have different, in different ministries.
I know, but overall, how much is Nigeria's debt?
I couldn't give you the exact figure, but I can get back to you on
But you're
that.
the Minister of the Budget.
Sorry?
You're a Minister of the Budget. So tell us, how much does Nigeria owe?
I can tell you the fiscal deficit. I can tell you the fiscal deficit. But until everybody, all the various ministers, we have a committee that is looking at all the debts. Okay. Right now, we have a committee that is scrutinizing all the debts.
Another government's area of interest is on solid minerals as well as trade and investment.
Yes, we have 44 odd minerals, but not all of the 44 odd minerals are in commercial quantity.
First, the president has issued a presidential sort of let me call it directive or policy, that there should be a presidential council that is interministerial, chaired by the vice president, and all the ministers here and other ministers are part of that interministerial council to deal with those constraints that get in the way of doing business at a very granular and operational level.
In part two, after the break, Kogi State government sets up commission of inquiry to investigate use of public funds by previous administrations in the state. Please join us again.